hit on its heat dissipating radiator. The command to open up the Soyuz parachute, the large parachutes, is scheduled just after 6:30 a.m. Central Time, with landing at 6:45 and 43 seconds a.m. Central Time, 5:45 p.m. in Kazakhstan. 90. The Soyuz continues its departure on the correct trajectory away from the International Space Station. Again, undocking occurred on time at 4:57 and 30 seconds a.m. Central Time, 5:50.
You from Dragon looking up at the drogue chutes.
Those will remain attached to the spacecraft until they help deploy the main parachutes, coming up in just a few moments. Again, these views coming to us from the recovery ship standing by to recover our crew members once they splash down. Looks like we
It looks like we have main parachute deployment there.
Main chute descent rate nominal.
Dragon copies 1,000 meters.
A beautiful.
Copy 1,000.
Beautiful view there from that recovery vessel of Dragon Endurance with those 4 healthy main parachutes. At this point in time, the capsule is going about 119, or was going about 119 miles per hour when those were deployed, and they also deployed about 6,500 feet. So these main parachutes will help slow the vehicle down even further to about
800 meters.
Copy 800.
So that we'll hear from the crew about how far they are above the surface of the water. So there we just heard that call out for 800 meters. The capsule is slowing down further and further. By the time that it actually splashes down, it'll only be going about 16 miles per hour.
It's fascinating to think that just minutes ago, really, they were in outer space.
Copy 600.
And are now just 600 meters above Earth. Again, we are targeting a 9:02 p.m. Eastern Time, splashdown 6:02 p.m. Pacific. So that is the next major milestone for us today, now that we have 4 healthy main parachutes all deployed. Things continue to look good aboard Dragon.
That's right. We're about a little less than a minute and a half away from the crew splashing down.
Copy 400 meters.
Once again, we are targeting a splashdown off the coast of Florida, near Tampa. So this is what we would consider a Gulf landing.
And those strobes of light on your screen, those are spotlights coming from the recovery vessels as they continue to track Dragon Endurance.
200 meters, crew brace for splashdown.
Copy 200 and braced.
Commander Nicole Mann giving out that call as we are standing by for splashdown off the coast of Tampa, Florida.
There we can see the water surface. Dragon Endurance coming closer and closer. And as you just saw, splashdown of Crew 5.
100 and 57 days in space.
SpaceX Dragon splashdown names have been released.
Copy, Dragon. We concur with splashdown and mains released. Dragon and
Dragon was using while in orbit, and so we want to make sure that there aren't any traces of those fumes, basically, so that the team can get close to the capsule. We will actually see an individual climbing on top of the capsule to make sure that that monomethylhydrazine and nitrogen tetroxide is not present on the exterior of the vehicle. There could potentially be traces due to the fact that those are the thrusters that Dragon was using while in orbit, and so we want to make sure that there aren't any traces of those fumes, basically, so that the team can get close to the capsule. We will actually see an individual climbing on top of the capsule to secure the harnesses that are necessary, the rigging, to lift the capsule onto the recovery vessel. As I have said before, certainly a job that I would not be fit to do, as it involves, as it requires jumping into what we can see as dark water, and climbing on top of the capsule and securing those harnesses.
Where's your sense of adventure? As we heard the Corps and the crew communicate, the capsule is in stable 1. That means it's in an upright position in the water. Makes it easier to recover, obviously. That is the ideal splashdown position for the capsule itself. So the crew members are still inside. They are still in their suits, in their seats. They will remain that way until the spacecraft itself is lifted onto the recovery vessel. But the first ships arrive are those fast boats. Again, they are just checking out the spacecraft, making sure that it's safe for the rest of the team to approach.
So SpaceX Corps just giving the crew a heads up. Hey, you might be seeing some people on the outside of the capsule. It's to be expected.
Yeah, first people that they've seen on Earth, in almost 6 months.
That's right, 157 days in space, now complete as Dragon Endurance with the Crew 5 crew, now safely back on Earth.
Again, this was the first flight, so the first re-entry experience as well for 3 of these crew members, Nicole Mann, Josh Cassada, and Anna Kikina. I'm sure that Koichi Wakata, who now has 505 days in space across 5 space flights, told them a lot of what to expect, but it was a new spacecraft for him too. So a lot of new and exciting experiences on today's ride home.
As we said before, the crew generally experiences between 3 to 5 Gs during the re-entry portion of their journey home. So not too bad. Just like a really good roller coaster. Similar to their activities in space, their activities here for recovery back on Earth are also very highly coordinated and choreographed, really. So we can see that the approach boat has reached the capsule. We should see. Hopefully, it might be tough because of the distance, but we will hopefully be able to see one of the SpaceX recovery team members will actually hop in the water and then pull themselves up onto the capsule to basically secure the harnesses that are required to lift the capsule onto the recovery vessel. As of right now, if we were able to see...
Dragon SpaceX requesting permission to come on board via the display camera view only.
SpaceX Dragon, you are welcome on board.
All right, so just...
We copy.
SpaceX Mission Control, basically just making sure it's okay for us to turn those interior cameras on. So we should get a view, the one that we saw before that sits between pilot Josh Cassada and Commander Nicole Mann, so we can see the screens that they're looking at. But as we were saying, the recovery team is circling the vessel, just making sure that there are no hypergol fumes there that are present. There's also another team circling and gathering the parachutes from the water to try and recover those as well. Once we hear the call out that there are no hypergols present, the recovery team will be able to take off their respirators. So if we were able to see them, they would have personal protective equipment on, those breather masks basically to make sure that they're breathing clean air to ensure that, and they will do that until that they are sure that there are no hypergol fumes. Astronauts Bob and Doug, our favorite space dads, and it's just been really cool to see how, as the SpaceX recovery teams have basically iterated the process a number of times, not only with the actual landings, but with practiced ones as well, with a Dragon capsule mock-up. So it's pretty cool to see how streamlined the operations have been. And there we can actually see our first good view of that SpaceX recovery team member that is climbing on board the Dragon capsule. This is exactly what they have to do in order to place the harnesses and the rigging and secure them. That equipment, of course, is critical to the lifting operation.